I'd like to clarify something that I said in a recent video on modern women and how men should not give these women a single iota, no chivalry whatsoever. I stand by that, and I want to encourage also any men out there to know the difference between a modern woman and a woman that is actually worth being chivalrous to. It has come to my attention that the clarification is needed because a lot of men are having trouble on semen retention with a couple different things, which this video is going to be about, which is edging and female attraction, and what to do with the desires for edging or attraction or PMO or whatever you want to call it. So edging and female attraction. What is the relationship? Well, you have to recognize the differences between repressing desires, accepting desires, and acting on desires. You can't rid yourself of any desires, right? Like if you really want to look at a woman as a man, you can't really not force yourself to not do so, right? Because it's just biologically hardwired in us to do these things. Just as much as women know that they are, consciously or unconsciously, they know that they are the more quote-unquote beautiful sex of males and females. And the reason for this is twofold, I would say. Number one is understanding this helps repair your nervous system. And number two, understanding that a woman's beauty is not always everything, and that if her mentality isn't on point, feminine or nurturing in any way, then how she looks is really not going to be worth a lot. Now, unfortunately, a lot of men do not understand these two reasons for understanding their desires. They don't understand a lot of the times the difference between a fat butt or large breasts and a woman that is going to actually care about where they're going in life and be supportive and feminine and complement their life. You see, a lot of modern day stuff is perversion disguised as liberation. A lot of the stuff that is in our relationships, that is in our education system, that is in Hollywood, that is in all kinds of social media, a lot of this stuff is perversion disguised as liberation. Now, you can do whatever you want. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do or should do something one way or another. However, with that being said, if you want to elevate yourself on the semen retention journey, you're going to have to understand the difference between lust and your inner sense of being, because that's really what this semen retention journey is about. And I would actually argue that needing feminine attention, or female attention rather, not feminine energy, but needing female attention is actually a sign of insecurity on our part, men. If you are doing semen retention for the sole purpose of getting female attention, you're probably going to achieve that. You're probably going to achieve it, but there's something much deeper here that I would urge you to really do the inner work on. You know, this is more than anything so simple. And what I like to call is, for this is both for men and women, it's what I call A to A, attraction and attachment to arousal. You're attracted to the attachment of arousal, and you're attracted and attached to arousal. So when you are edging, which edging is any form of activity, whether you're checking women out a lot here and there and you're throwing your nervous system in a frenzy, or you are doing whatever you so desire on the World Wide Web with corn or anything like that, but you do not ejaculate, that is what is edging. That is what's considered as edging. And the reason that I say it's A to A, or attachment to arousal, is because it can work for both males and females. Speaking of which, if any females are watching this channel, specifically content like this with semen retention, I'd be curious to see how many of you are there that are watching this. So if you could just leave a comment. I'm just curious on how many people are actually watching this that are female that are on this topic. But needing female attraction is a sign of your insecurity. And there's a lot of inner work there left to do. It's likely the case that you didn't have a lot of feminine energy being poured into you growing up. And so you're doing this because you're trying to get that female attention. How do I know this? Because there was not a lot of female attention growing up in my life. And by the time I was in high school, I remember I moved to Phoenix, Arizona when I was about 16, 17 years old, and I lived there for a year, and I had this group of girlfriends there. And they were all just friends, though, at the time, which I would never tell myself to be friends with girls now, but at the time I was just studying them. I was just studying what it was like to interact with a bunch of different kinds of women. They were fascinated with me because I was this guy from Utah that wasn't LDS. And they were so perplexed. Like, I thought everybody in Utah was Mormon, and they genuinely thought that. And so when they found out that I wasn't, it was very confusing for them, and they wanted to get to know more about me. And I was this mysterious, elusive figure to them. And I realized a lot of things with those relationships with those women. But number one is that I needed that kind of attention from women because I wasn't getting it where I was growing up. And it was weird. I was experiencing this all for like the first time. And I was starting to become comfortable with female energy for the first time. And then by the time I was in college, I had a different set of females that I was friends with, even though I actually liked a couple of them here and there, but they were my friends for the most part. And I never did make a move on them, even though we had a lot of chemistry and everything like that. Because I just, I didn't see the risk outweighing, or I didn't see the reward outweighing the risk at the time. And I still stand by that. I would have never been friends with any of these women if I were to go back in time and tell myself or give myself any kind of recommendations, because it was too tempting all the time. It was very tempting to be around them sometimes, and I would just tell them that I need some space, and I would just do my own thing or something like that. And then when they'd want to hang out, I would, but it was so preposterous what I was doing. I know looking back, I was doing what I knew was wrong because I wanted these women. And yet they had either emotional attachments with other men already, and they were just using me as free attention, and I was using them as attention as well, because whenever you engage with anybody, you're going to exchange some kind of information. You're going to exchange some kind of energy. And I didn't know how to hold on to my energy at that point. And so I would edge a lot, even though I didn't know what edging was, because what edging really is just that attachment to arousal. And women can get that too. They can be attached to the feeling of dopamine getting rushed to their brain when they see guys checking them out. It's like, I'm not telling you women that you should or shouldn't dress provocatively, but know that if you do dress provocatively, I'm not going to be around you anymore. I'm not going to want to be near you. In fact, it's not that I'm insecure at this point, it's that you disgust me. How is it that we live in a time where women are 10 times less into the physical act of S3X, and yet men are the ones that are not getting anywhere near as much S3X according to statistics? There's not a brothel in sight, and yet these women are acting as if we are living in a public brothel. It's crazy. It's crazy. And you know, the really good women that are prostitutes or act in such a way, like OnlyFans stuff, they're really good at making you feel as though you're the only guy that she cares about, right? She's very good at that. And it's just like a pimp with his hose, right? It's that a pimp makes the woman feel as if her genitalia is worthless. That's the role of the pimp. I'm not saying this is right at all. I'm saying that's the role that the pimp plays. And yeah, it's disgusting, but those are the two ways that he gets money, from her feeling like she is worthless, and so she has to go make these guys feel as though she cares about them just so she can get the money from them to give to the pimp. And it's like, it's a circular, terrible, terrible way of going about things. But going back to, I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but I think it's going to resonate with a few people. I'm not sure who exactly that message was for. But needing female attraction nonetheless is a sign of insecurity as a man. And when you are able to sit in your energy with your ball sack having all of the energy there, when you are able to sit there with your energy and not just give it off everywhere, whenever you're conserving anything, you're going to get more of something, right? In one way, shape, or form. And so, yeah, you're going to have these desires. You're going to have these desires that come up, especially if you're single, practicing retention. I know this because that's happened to me, where I've had very, very high lustful attacks, spiritual attacks, where it's like almost irresistible to say no. But whenever you find that strength to say no and tell yourself no and give yourself that self-respect and discipline, you surpass and transcend that which you feared to lose, which is female attraction. And ironically enough, when you transcend that, it's like all of the women now, they just flock to you. It's crazy. It's amazing, but it's crazy. And so if you're looking for this kind of attention from women, you have to look at your your mother wounds, and you have to really acknowledge that, whenever you're attracted to any woman out there, what you're really attracted to is the eternal image of the feminine divine. And that is going to be subconsciously projected onto them at first, because in Jungian psychology, we have the ego, the four main archetypes of the psyche: the ego, the shadow, the anima or animus, and then the self. The ego is that which gives us a form in which we can experience individual consciousness, even though the ego doesn't exist. Yeah, we're going pretty deep here, guys. So, brace yourself. So the ego is that elusive self. The shadow is the dark version of ourself. It's like the dark side of the force within us. And really, that's where I think about 80% of our power comes from, to be quite honest. And then you have the anima and animus. The anima is the totality of feminine experiences within the male psyche, individually. And then the animus is the totality of masculine experiences within the female psyche. And so, whenever you have... And the anima is always going to be projected at first. However, the anima is not necessarily a woman within you, within your psyche, but it's the image of a woman within your mind and your psyche and your subconscious. And so, the more you relate to your inner feminine totality, the greater you're going to be viewing the feminine totality externally. And it's the same thing with the animus for females. And then the self is what we're really trying to get to on the semen retention journey. That is, that's the journey of individuation and self-realization as a whole. But with semen retention, I do think you have the potential to put yourself on a fast track to success, granted you're doing the inner work. But when you find the self, that is the thing that's going to give you everlasting unconditional love. And that's within you, and that's within us all. But you will never be able to give unconditional love and experience that kind of unconditional love until you have it first within yourself. And you are free from lust. And I'll tell you what, with the last few months, women, when you are organically free from lust and you are authentic, you're not trying to be like the alpha male that doesn't give a shit about women. And, it's like you still care, you just don't care as much. In fact, you care probably about 99% less. So it's not like you don't care. It's just you don't care as much. And you're not attached to the situation. You're not attached to anybody. You're not trying to just be a certain thing. You're just being who you are. And that's going to naturally show with you. But I'll tell you what, women are very much at ease around you when you are genuinely, organically free from your lust. But there are going to be times where women walk by you and the energy is very heavy. And it's not like the Beatles, she's so heavy. No, it's not like that. It's not like that at all. It's more like, oh, she's heavy. And it's more like the energy is heavy. It's not like she's fat. That could be the case though. But it's more like you can feel the trauma that is there with the woman. And so if she's got a lot of trauma, but she's very promiscuous, don't get me wrong, when she walks by you, she's trying to get your attention. It's going to make your dick jump. But you've got to be able to have the mental fortitude to move and surpass that. And you have to understand that that's part of your edging discipline, I guess you could say, is learning how to overcome those kind of desires and transcend them and accept it for what it is. Again, you're not trying to repress it. You're not going to try to act on it. If you're really on the semen retention journey, you're going to try to accept it. And it's almost like, it's like looking out and seeing a bunch of traffic in the far distance, but it doesn't bother you because the traffic is way over there and you're on this road over here. But you can see there's a lot of traffic over on that road. And so you just kind of stay in your lane and you keep moving forward. So with that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. And if anybody has any more questions about this topic, please feel free to comment. I'm always welcoming of questions. And if you would like to do a consultation with me, please email regalchange@gmail.com. Peace be with you. Till next time.